Hi, I just wanted to make a follow-up video because I felt like it was so valuable, the things that were talked about in the two longer videos, including people that are really good experts in the field of social pedagogy. But the only thing I thought was, I just wanted to acknowledge that I do think it's a really hard thing to get your head around. It took me carrying on doing postgraduate study at UCLan to really understand it, and I think it came from having someone who was really passionate about it teaching me, and it helped me to get the links between that and what I was actually doing, because I never recognised that what I was doing would fit under this umbrella of social pedagogy. And when I understood its application, it actually really empowered me. So I thought I'd have a little bit of a discussion about that. So I think the first thing is, Ali Gardner makes a really good point that everything about it really depends on the context. So it is actually, social pedagogy itself is a social construct. So it is underpinned by a value base, but it also depends on how it is actually applied, depends on where you live, a different culture and the conversations around it. But even so, it does have a really strong value base around well-being, learning, recognising that everyone's inherently valuable, and that happiness is key, and looking at the fact that everyone can contribute towards the community and society. It's just looking at ways that we can include everyone, and be less exclusive of certain groups. I think the thing about social pedagogy is it invites us to look more at the whole person rather than just maybe the deficits or what we're looking at, the needs and how we're going to meet them. And that's absolutely essential, because otherwise we can be so blinded by looking at safety that we actually do nothing of value for the person, because what might be so important for that person is that they feel engaged in the community. And that's a risk in itself, because if people feel low and disengaged, that's a massive risk factor in terms of mental health and well-being. But that side of things is sometimes missed, and I think a key social work role and the role of well-being workers and people in this sort of field is really understanding that that is crucial, that we look at that. I think it also relates to some of the narrative around vulnerability. That can be a really unhelpful narrative for some people. So some people have just got vulnerable adult, but then that means that we then only look at what we can do to protect people, but that strips them down to just that, and people are always more than just the risk or the danger that they're in. If we were just looking at that, we're narrowing it down too much, and I think we need to have a really clear idea of that, because sometimes we can be the only one in the room that's really fighting for people's rights and fighting for the things that matter to that person, and without that you might end up not really helping the person. I think the last thing I wanted to say was around your value base. So social pedagogy has a strong humanistic background. It looks at everyone as being inherently valuable. I think that's really important, because there are some groups where you can see that people treat them differently, and it's really important that people aren't written off and that everyone's seen as having the potential to improve. So that's been really helpful for me, because it's led me to really have the confidence to work with anyone, because I think before I thought, oh, maybe I wouldn't be helpful to these people or these groups, but really you just realise that if you have a good value base and you listen to people and you find out what matters to them, you can work with that person to find solutions, and you're not on your own. You've always got a massive network of people in the community that are there to provide support. But by finding out what really matters to that person, what's unique about them or what's unique about their needs, you can then connect them up with the right people. I think I've got a video about the McIntyre charity, but I love this charity because it's just perfect in the way that the example of Kieran, where Peter, the manager, had just looked at what Kieran's strengths were and just given him a little bit of support, which then enabled Kieran to absolutely soar and thrive. And he's now a role model for other people, and he's running his cinema group and he's looking at his dream, and that is the most important thing to him. And I think it just shows the importance of people really finding their passion. And I think it's the same for all of us, really. Like, all of us are just on a path trying to find what's important to us, and the people we're supporting, it's no different. Yeah, we need to look at risks, but we also need to look at everything else. Well-being is central.